Good afternoon. Welcome to the show, everybody. This is Real Talk with Mary Grace. Looks like some people are coming on. I am a little bit later today. I had some things that came up that could not be helped. So we're going to jump in where we could have started at 5:30. All right. Everybody come on in. Please share this. Say hello as you come. It looks like it's slowly starting because nobody was expecting me to be on at this time. So here we go. Welcome, everybody. Share this as you come in. If you're on Facebook, please tag your friends, share it into groups. If you're on YouTube, please be sure and give us a thumbs up as you're watching the show, and then also do the reminders and then subscribe to the channel. Make sure you like the Facebook page. Some of you guys like the show, but you don't like the Facebook page. So please make sure you like and follow that. And the big thing that makes a big difference is when people share this into groups on Facebook and when you tag your friends. Yeah, so the advantage of following my Telegram channel is that I put a message in that said that I was going to be coming on later. So if you were following my Telegram channel, you would have known that I was coming on later. And yeah, so that's Telegram. It's Mary Grace Media Official on Telegram. People say that they don't know how to use Telegram, and all I have to say is you can Google it. um, and you don't have to have the app to use it. You can use it on your computer as well. And so there's a little bit of a learning curve, but you didn't know how to use YouTube once upon a time either. And so we're all adults here, and people can figure it out. But that's where I'm dropping that information because I got banned from my main account on Twitter, and Twitter is like a ghost town these days anyway. So we're just going to keep moving forward in the platforms that we're able to work with. And it looks like Real 45 is going to be doing something. I had predicted that maybe he was going to be taking over some platforms. It looks like maybe there's something different in the works. So we'll just see what happens. I think it's going to be exciting no matter what. It has to be something that can accommodate at least 100 million users, I think. And so it's going to be good. So just a reminder as we get started, we have some code words, and the main ones are that we use Real 45 and we use Faker 46. You can figure out what that is, and then we also use what do we call him? Baby Mengele or Mini Mengele, one of those. That's the 4-foot sociopath that calls himself a scientist and that is responsible for hundreds of thousands of lost lives because of the pandemic. And then there's some other people. Kakala is one, and we'll see. So okay, I'm going to keep going, and I wanted to talk about something that came up on Telegram earlier, and the title of my message today, as you might have noticed, is They Never Thought She Would Lose. And the reason that I titled it that is because I think things are starting to come together. I think the bigger picture, hopefully, is starting to resonate with some people, and starting some light bulbs are starting to go off, and I'm going to try to explain or expound upon a theory that I've had for a long time. And people who have followed the alphabet letter, the military intelligence group that was dropping information, a lot of those people have been working on this theory. And those of you who are new, hopefully this will help, and I want to explain it. The thing that a lot of people have been upset about and frustrated about and irritated about is, and I see this all the time, and it to me it's a really naive way. Is today the ninth? Oh, okay, you're right. Let me fix it. It's a really naive approach. I can fix that right now. Thank you. You can tell I was a little bit in a rush. Okay. Easy to fix. Let me fix that. So yeah, so one of the things that thank you, Diane. So one of the things that I see a lot is, oh, nothing's ever happening. When is this going to end? When are we going to see, all these things wrapped up and all these loose ends wrapped up and everybody go to jail and everybody see justice and all this. And, sometimes, it's like, it's like people think they're watching a sitcom or something or an episode of Law and Order. And I've brought this up before, but I have a lot of new people. So I really want to make sure that people understand how this all is playing out. And if you have been paying attention to what's going on in Arizona right now, they're doing something extraordinary. And that is that they are auditing, they're doing a full forensic audit of the votes, and they're doing something that's unprecedented. And now that the results are starting to come out, now that the results are starting to come out, we're seeing sort of a snowball effect where other states are going out there and touring the facility and interviewing the people who are responsible for getting the audit going. And this is extremely significant. People from Virginia have gone, people from states that you wouldn't expect that aren't really in the news as having suspected malfeasance. And so this is really critical to understand. And we think of what's going on in Arizona as the first domino. We think of things that are as we think of that as the first that's made of dominoes, that you you hit the first one, and then if it's set up the right way, then they all fall. And I think that if you understand that aspect of it, I think that you're going to see that things are going to start happening pretty quickly. And it only takes a couple of states to really turn it around. But what we're going for nationwide is a complete and total overhaul of the whole system, not just of one state. And, continually throughout the election season, Real 45 has said over and over and over, this is not just another 4-year election. America will never be a socialist country. America will never be a communist country. Well, one of the things that sets those countries apart is the fact that that elections there are just a farce. That you may go show up to the polling place, but you really don't have a say in who's elected because they run their elections like a banana republic. And from everything that we've seen and from the evidence that we have coming out, that's what happened in this election. And so I know that some of you know this, but I'm hoping that I can give you a bigger picture and paint this with a broad enough brush that you really start to have some peace of mind about the bigger game afoot here. And it's important that you understand this because America is unique. America is unique in that our government runs by the consent of the governed, that the people consent to be governed, not the other way around. We are not subjects. We are not chattel. We are not property. And it's up to us to assert the sovereignty and the rights that we have as individuals. And this is unique. This is unique in all of the world. This is why people die to get to our country. And I don't know of a single other country where you hear stories of people risking life and limb to leave that one country to get to that other country. we have bodies and we have corpses in the desert on the southern border here of people who risked everything to get here. It's not just for the food stamps. Um, there's a much bigger ideal that people are wanting, and so I really want you to understand this, and I think it became very clear a long time ago to people who care about our country that this was the direction that everything was going, with the way that the elections, as are being run. Apparently, we're having issues with Facebook. I'm not really sure what's going on, but just do the best you can to find me on whatever platform you can. Okay, I'm on YouTube at Mary Grace Media. So let me go back to 2016, because we know for sure that Real 45 was asked to run and that he was asked years ago. And we also know that we're pretty sure with a reasonable degree of certainty that there haven't really been fair elections for a long time. And for example, the person who was installed in 2008, that was, in my opinion, a Manchurian candidate. A lot of people believe that. A lot of people also believe that it didn't matter and still doesn't matter yet whether you have an R or a D after your name, because it was really just the uniparty and they were just trading off who was going to get that position at any given time. And then they just pretended, oh, gee, golly, we lost. And we'll get them next time, by golly. And that's what No Name did. That's what Mittens Romney did when they just lost abysmally races that they should have won, because it was never intended that they would win. It was all just for show. And so many of the races that you see have been done that way, and it's still happening. And so that's not the way a republic works. That's not how democracy works. And what they were doing and what they have been doing is trying to turn this country into a really a colony of the New World Order, as just another colony of the grand scheme, which you can see a massive version of that in the European Union. They just wanted this country to be another extension of that, and they still want it. I mean, they want the governing body of the EU to be over this country, and so that would essentially fold us back in under European sovereignty, right? And I'm not going to go deep in the weeds on that, but I think I just want to give you the concept. All right. And so the thing that I think happened along the way is that good people, patriots, who were seeing everything that was going on behind the scenes, and everything that was going on behind the scenes, I think that people in positions of very high positions, for example, Admiral Rogers at the NSA, they saw and understood everything that was happening with the elections long before Real 45 started, or got the nomination in 2016. And so that is that's important to understand. Okay, people think that everything that happened in 2016 was just a stroke of luck. That, wow, he had so much support that he just happened to beat her, that nobody saw it coming, that uh, he just had such a groundswell of support. That's true. And the people that had promised her the world, the people that had rigged the election in such a way that she was sure to win, the people that had promised the mainstream media hacks that their girl was going to win, those people, they didn't account for the fact, they didn't account for the fact that they didn't account for the fact that we knew then what they were planning with her. Okay, This is the part that I think a lot of people are missing. A lot of people who are new to this journey, who are recently red pilled, who are recently uh, coming on board and getting awakened to what's going on. A lot of people miss the part about what was going on in before 2016, leading up to that. A lot of people think that the timeline of all of the draining of the swamp started on election day of 2016 when he won. What I want to propose to you is that it started way before that, and that our people, known as the White Hats, knew what they had planned to do in 2016 as well. Um, that they understood fully that the Hussein regime was just the first part of a bigger plan to destroy this country and do the things that I described. They knew all of that. And they had it wasn't just a hunch, they had the intel and they had access to the systems that were being used to rig the votes. And they were very well aware of it. Uh, Enough so that when election night came along, our team was able to put a stop to the rigging that the other team had put in place, the other side. And it was enough that it jarred everybody into a place of insanity and derangement that has gone on for however long. It never was the derangement that they had, the Russia, the impeachment, the Ukraine, whatever. It was never about his personality. It was never about him winning and him being president. It was never about the mean tweets. The whole MO and the entire driving force behind this absolute insanity and this breakneck speed at which these people have tried repeatedly to destroy you, to destroy me, to destroy him, to destroy his reputation, to investigate him to the nth degree, to prevent him ever existing on the world stage again. It all had to do with putting a stop to stopping the steal. This is what it all comes down to, because when you control, it's not who votes, it's who counts them. And so when you have control of that, then you have entire control of a nation. You cease to be a democracy and you become a dictatorship. And it dissolves into third world, banana republic, communist, socialist, Marxist, whatever you want to call it. It's not anything. It's the polar opposite of what America was founded on. And so, when you understand the depth of the forces of evil that have been behind this for a very long time, that is when you start to see that the part that you came into the story, it's like you came in so far down the timeline that for you to be demanding that they hurry up and finish is it's a bit rich actually, and it's extremely naive. And I'm saying that in a loving way because I want you to wake up and understand that the timeline is a very long one, and it's actually a very ancient one that goes back, if you really want to dig deep, it goes back millennia, because in the spirit realm, it's the Antichrist spirit. It's the same spirit that tried to kill all the babies when Moses was conceived. It is the same spirit that tried to kill the baby Jesus. It's the same thing. And so the people who are trying to stop this and reverse it have been watching this play out for a very long time. And again, I very lovingly want to exhort you to take a step back and really put on your spiritual goggles here and look from a whole different perspective at what's at stake. It's not just about your convenience or your comfort or uh, the fact that you feel uncomfortable right now with what's going on, or that you feel anxious or you feel afraid. Those are valid things. I'm not diminishing how you feel, but what I'm telling you is that you see an extremely tiny, teeny spot of the entire forest of corruption that is being dealt with. And the evil that is being dealt with is so far beyond what I think most of us can imagine. I mean, we hear stories about certain things. We hear stories about things that are on laptops. We hear stories about things that are happening at the border. We have these pieces of threads that belong in this bigger tapestry. But there are very few people on the planet who have a bigger picture of the entire tapestry and of what's at stake if just one or two more threads gets pulled to completion, and how completely it could dissolve. And so I'm imploring you, I'm exhorting you to really, if you don't have the wisdom, if you don't have the understanding, if you don't have the ability to process or to stick with the plan, ask for it. Because there's a lot of growing up that still has to be done by a lot of grown-ups in this country and in the world. It's essential that we get to that place and that we understand that there's a bigger picture. And so when we look at what's going on, going back to the nuts and bolts now of what's happening in Arizona and what's about to happen in some other states, this is so critical because there's a post that was put up by the military intelligence a couple of years ago during the 2018 midterms. And that is, I'm going to read it because Praying Medic shared it and I put it in my Telegram. Where did it go? How did these things get lost? Gosh, what happened to my chat here? How did it get so filled up? Okay, you guys have been busy. Where is that? Okay, it says this was on January 7th of 2018. Listen to this. We will never lose again when this is finished. Okay, and it's interesting because they spelled the word when, W-I-N, and it was yeah. So I think that this is a legitimate drop. Praying Medic actually shared it on his channel. So I just think that's very interesting. And then this was the same year that Real 45 signed an executive order just before the midterm elections about seizing the assets of individuals and corporations and governments that were involved in stealing an election and treason. And so there's so much that has been happening that is not coincidence. And the people, we the people, had to be the ones to take this part of the fight and take it on ourselves. So we have real citizens, real moms, real dads, real committee members and state senators and Congress members. Those are the people, secretaries of state, that are pushing for these changes and audits. And when Real 45 did his inauguration speech, he said, "We are returning power to the people." And that is what is happening here. And I understand it so deeply, and I hope that I'm able to articulate it to you. And I've said this so many times. I've really tried to ask you not to get distracted by peripheral issues that keep popping up. And these are things that are being pushed by media on both sides. There are issues that are important, but without this specific issue being corrected and turned around and completely rectified, nothing else matters. None of it matters. Not the Jabberwocky, not the face diapers, not another pandemic. Nothing. Nothing matters if this doesn't get fixed. And so when I say keep your eyes on the prize, I really mean that. And if you think that Real 45 is going to endorse candidates and give rallies and do speeches and come back and do his job without getting this fixed, then you don't know him. That's not how he does things. And he kept more promises than he made. And one of the promises that he made is, I will never, ever let you down. And he also said, America will never be a socialist country. And so I'm going with the guy that keeps his promises. He's the only person in that swamp up there who's not there right now. He's the only one who keeps his promises. And he's going to continue to do that. So I hope that this is resonating with some of you. Everybody has gone super quiet, and I hope that means that you're listening. Um, I think that's what it means. And so I think the world is going to be amazed when they see that the outcome of this is that we will have a structure in place that will prevent it from happening ever again. Ever again. I think that's going to be the outcome here. And I think that's what we need. We have to have that, because I was thinking about something. I was reading a book about I was reading a book about Corrie Ten Boom, and it's a biography of her. And she was the one that I mentioned last week about how her family sheltered Jews in Holland, and they were hauled off to prison and put in the concentration camps. And the story, The Hiding Place, is one that everybody needs to read multiple times in your life. But what I realized in reading that is that she was talking about a situation. She was talking about her family. She was talking about her grandfather and how her grandfather had set up a shop in Holland, a watch shop, a jewelry shop. And that was in 1844. And at that time, he was a very strong believer in Jesus Christ. And he told his family, even at that time, he knew that he had a mandate from the Lord really to bring the love of God into the community and into to every person who came in touch with them. And he was also a great champion for the Jews. And that was unusual at that time. The Jews didn't even have a nation at the time. And so she was reflecting on the fact that 100 years later, and the Jews were under a lot of attack because it was during the Napoleonic reign. And so, it was like there was never any rest for the weary. And so she was reflecting on the fact that it was only 100 years before that her grandfather had spoken those words about how that house and that shop and that place would be a refuge. And so here we were, it was 100 years from the time that they survived that to now they were being hunted and demonized and victimized by another maniac. And I thought it was very interesting because I on Sunday we commemorated the 77th anniversary of D-Day, and these things are obviously going in cycles. Okay, 100 years, 77 years, right? What we're talking about right now is that democracy, Western civilization as we know it, has been under attack from the time it actually was established. Freedom has been under attack for millennia. And this is what we are doing here. This is why we're here. This is why you're being called to stand in this place and to take a stand and to say no more. This is where it stops. This is where the cycle stops. My generation, this nation will be the nation that stops that stops the tracks of tyranny from knocking on the door of any person again. It has to stop. And if we don't get the elections fixed in this country, there will be no more conversations like what we're having right now. I will not be talking to you. There would be no platform. There would be no mechanism by which I could communicate to you, or any of the new media could communicate to you. This is so important. It's so critical to understand, and so it's not just that there will be no more America. There will be no more freedom. There will be no more of anything that we know as Western civilization. That's what we're talking about here. I wish that I could take people on some of the journeys to some of the places that I've been, to see the living conditions, to see the way that people's lives are run, to see how much under the thumb of government people are, to see the utter lack of freedom that people have. Even in Europe, the thing that I think has been really sad about Americans, one of the things about Americans that really needs to change is that they need to get better educated about history and about world events and geopolitical realities. Because over the years, since modern Germany came to be, it's been held up. Germany and the Netherlands and those places, they've been held up as the ideal democracy, the ideal of the way life should be. It's, well, this is the way they do it in Germany, and this is the way they do it in Sweden, and this is what, right? And we've sort of been woke scolded into thinking that our ways are backwards and that the Europeans always have a better way of doing it. And it's a gaslighting that has actually allowed us to be manipulated into thinking that America is bad, and that the way that we think and the way that we do things is backwards. And that's what's opened the door to a lot of why we're here now. And the irony of it is, if you look at Germany right now, they're suffering because they're really at the crux of the European Union, and the way that their government is being run is abysmal. It's horrific. I mean, they're under almost totalitarian rule, and yet that's supposed to be the model for us, for America. And so, there are two things that I really want Americans to understand out of this. I want Americans to understand how our country actually works. And I want Americans to travel. I want them to leave this country, and I want them to go into the places to see and understand the geopolitical realities of any place that's not America. And it will open your eyes in a way that you can never, ever have opened by watching reality shows and travel network or whatever it is. Okay. It's not until you sit on a wooden bench in a straw hut on an island off the coast of Africa trying to eat food that has 8 flies landing on every bite, that you understand how good you have it in America. Or, you walk down the street in a Muslim village in Indonesia and you see women who are veiled and they're living cloistered behind a wall and they're terrified of even talking to a Western person, because they don't control their lives. There's no feminism. There's no independence for women in places like that. I want people to see that. I want people to understand what it is that we have in America. And I sadly, not many people do. The people that are the most invested in calling you a racist and in saying that you're inherently racist because of the color of the skin that you were born with, they have no idea that some of the most racist people exist in other countries around the world, and that they're extraordinarily racist against anyone that isn't of their own culture. And, when you go into the Far East, you'll get a very glaring example of this. And the same thing, believe it or not, in Africa. Um, the biggest crimes that have been committed in a lot of places on the African continent are, one tribe against another, and the level of hatred that they have toward one another just because they speak a different language and they come from a different tribe, even though they have the same skin color, is extraordinary. And so people have no idea. And because they're glued to the idiot box and because they're fed the gaslighting and the information from social media and from schools that have been captured by Marxist ideology, they are led to believe that that is true about them and their culture. And I'm here to tell you that America is the least racist nation on the planet. Truly, I'm saying that from experience. I've been in a lot of countries and I've talked to people, and I've talked to people of different tribes, races, creeds, colors, and I've had real conversations with them. And trust me, believe me when I tell you that on a scale of, racist, not racist to extraordinarily, unbelievably racist and bigoted, America doesn't even register. And that's the lie that that part of this agenda has been allowed to fester and to get into the minds of kids. It's easy to believe it when you haven't actually experienced it with your own eyes and with your own travels. I mean, yeah, it's crazy how divided people groups are in other countries. It's Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of manipulation of the language to make people think that that they're the ones who are the problem. And I'm being careful with what I'm saying here because, again, we're at this point in our education system where they are trying to indoctrinate kids with critical race theory and tell them that, and to make them hyper aware of their color and their skin, their pigment. It's crazy. I mean, it's like they want to bring America back to the days of the civil rights movement. And it's absolutely disgusting what they're trying to do. There was a meme that I took off of the internet today, and it was kind of interesting because there's pictures of the drinking fountains, and we all know, anybody over a certain age knows that in the time of segregation, you couldn't drink at the same water fountain as somebody with different colored skin. All one colored skin had the privileges over the other colored skin, and we worked through that, and thinking people realized that that was wrong and that it should never happen again, ever, anywhere on the planet. And, now these universities and these schools are literally reversing all of the progress that we've made because there are places in America, there are universities that are having graduation ceremonies that are divided by race and color and maybe even sexuality. They're bringing back segregation all over again. It's crazy. It's insanity. And so where does this all fit in? I want to bring this back to what I was saying about the audit, about the process that's playing out right now. Because everything that is being done uh, in in these audits and with regard to the process, the election process, it is to preserve all of it because the people that we vote for are the people that we choose to stand up for our beliefs, and those are the people that we give consent to govern us. And it's very clear right now that the people that have been put into these positions, whether it's through globalist money, through rigged voting systems, through just flooding the zone with votes from other countries or whatever, it's very obvious that the decisions that are being made do not reflect the ideology and the wishes and the religious beliefs of hundreds of millions of Americans. And so it absolutely 100% matters that we get these systems fixed. It's not enough just to go vote, because we clearly know now that you can vote 10 times a day. And if somebody else is doing the counting and they've got it hooked up to the internet, and the people that are printing the ballots are the same people that are counting the mail-in ballots that got returned, for example, if the people that are handling the back end of it are captured, if it's a captured operation and they represent a fundamentally different and other ideology, it doesn't matter what you believe, and it doesn't matter who you choose to represent you, to govern you, because the people that are pulling the levers of power are the ones that are making that choice. And when that happens, that, my friends, is known as a dictatorship. And there is no freedom. The freedom that you have is an illusion, and it is time to make sure that it never comes to that and that it never happens again. That is what we're fighting for. That's why this is so, so critical. And that's why they're trying so hard to distract you with things like aliens and with things like indictments against Real 45 and with things like Kakala doing ridiculously stupid things south of the border. Whatever it is that they're doing, that they're trying to distract you with, it might be an explosion somewhere. It might be another false flag or whatever it is that they do. It like I said, it just doesn't matter if the very fundamentals of the way that our votes are counted does not get fixed forever, once and for all. And going back to what I was saying about this story beginning way before most people realize it got started, is that it lines up with my theory of what I think was happening in 2018. If anybody followed the midterm elections then, it seems like so long ago. But I was doing a lot of research at the time, and I was traveling a little bit. I went down to Broward County when they were trying to steal that election from DeSantis. And that one county just couldn't get their act together to get the votes counted, right? Do you remember that? And that it was the Secretary of State there. What was her name? I can't remember. But the whole point is that that one county could have reversed the course of the history of Florida forever. Imagine having Gillum in charge during the pandemic in Florida. They'd still be locked down. And they would be like quadruple masking. And so the point of this is that I believed then, and I believe now, that our people who already knew that these things were happening, that our people were inside, that they had to let certain things play out. For example, in Arizona, where a Democrat got elected to Senate, even though everything else on the ticket was Republican. Those anomalies that showed up, they're just not normal. They're not statistically possible, but they happened anyway. And what I was seeing and what I believe was happening was that we had to let those scenarios play out so that we could get more data and we could get inside of their systems and get them to and to be able to reverse engineer what happened. And I truly believe, even though this may be an unpopular opinion. Hi, Jim. It might be an unpopular opinion. Is that this was actually the biggest sting operation on the planet ever in history. And I believe that because we were able to get their sources and methods and reverse engineer it, that we were actually able to put the pieces in place to force so many errors this time around that that it was impossible to ignore. That may or may not be true, but I do feel like it was. And CJ Truth actually tweeted that. I think it was CJ Truth tweeted that pretty soon after the election, and Real 45 actually retweeted it something to the effect that this was the biggest sting ever. And again, why do I believe that? I believe it because I believe that everything I just talked about is that if we did not allow this drug deal to go down, as it were, this crime of the century to go through, that we would always be on the precipice as a nation of losing this precious, precious thing that we have, which is the consent to be governed, which is the Bill of Rights, which is the Declaration of Independence, and this wonderful, beautiful Constitution that we have. And because we are so in danger of losing that, we actually had to let the people and the process play out to the precipice. And a lot of the solution and a lot of the plan comes down to we, the people, taking it on themselves and actually taking the responsibility for returning the government to the people themselves. Because it could have gone the other way. The American people could have just sat back and said, well, darn, we thought we had it, and gosh, they won. And they could have just sunk back into complacency like they've done every other 4 years and just let our country be stolen and surrendered and captured, fully captured. Real 45 and the people around him were counting on you and me not allowing that to happen. They were counting on the fact that we, the people, love our country so much that we would rise up and say, no, 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 this is wrong. We will not allow this to stand. And that's what's happening right now. And so I believe that we are in such a beautiful watershed moment in our nation and in the history of Western civilization, because God gave us a leader in Real 45 that we could believe in. And in turn, he gave us, Real 45 gave us the ability to believe in ourselves. He taught us to fight in a way that we had actually lost. He taught us to believe that that impossible is really not the end. That the word impossible doesn't mean that it's over. And we learned those things through the fight that we've been through over the last 5 years. I don't know about you, but I think a lot of people expected in 2016 when he won that they would be able to just take a breather and that it was just going to be all sunshine and roses and yay, our guy won. We love him and we're just going to bask in the glory of the win for the next 4 years, and then we're going to re-elect him and everything's going to be great. And it's interesting that it didn't happen that way, and I believe that it was by design that God allowed us to be jolted into this awakening. We had to be jolted into the awakening. It's sort of like, I would say, let me just see if I can picture an analogy here. It's like when you show up to an event where you think that you're going to be served, right? You're kind of like you're going to a spa. Imagine this, okay? This is what I think happened to a lot of people in 2016. It's like they thought they were going to a spa that was like a full service spa where all you had to do was just sit there and everything was done for you. I mean, literally, like they would chew your gum for you, okay? Because Americans got so complacent that we really thought that that's the way government was supposed to work. And then when Real 45 won and the fight really started, that was when people realized, oh, wait, we're not at a spa. They brought us to boot camp and we're having to learn to fight for our country again. That's what happened. And now, because we made it through boot camp and we made it through basic training and we stayed on the team, now a lot of us were kind of in the special forces and we were pushed into that. The digital soldiers were pushed into that in the years between 2016 and 2021. And here we are. And so now we know, and now we're trying to help the people that just landed here and thought they were in the spa and realized, oh crap, this is boot camp. But the thing is, it had to be this way. It had to be this way because the event, the scare event that happened in January of 2021, when everybody thought, okay, this can't be happening, right? That is the part that really woke people up and made them realize, okay, this is real. I'm a special forces fighter in the digital army and in the ground army and boots on the ground. I'm behind enemy lines. Like the enemy is in my gates. And we got to fight tooth and nail. We got to claw our way out of this. And that is what happened. And the thing about it is that none of us would ever have been equipped for this had not 45 answered the call and taken all of the slings and arrows and showed you how to do it. And had not the team, the White Hat team, come online and pushed people into learning and growing and embracing and researching and figuring out what the heck was going on. Imagine if the military White Hats had not actually taught people to question everything, to be suspicious of everything that came along. If we hadn't been learning that on the digital battlefield over the last 4 years, we would have been caught completely blindsided by this whole process, and nobody would have even known where to start. I mean, as it is, I think that it's kind of funny now because things happen so fast now. A story drops, and then you've got, thousands, hundreds of thousands of anons going, wait a minute, there's something weird about that. Okay, wait, I recognize that name. I remember that name from 2016. I remember that name from this. I remember I'd read this document. There's a PDF with that. Everybody I know, like that's what they're doing. They're pulling threads and they're drawing connections. And so we're never ever going to look at a story or a piece of news again the same. We're never going to accept, we're never going to lie down and sit down and say, okay, that's just the way it is. No, we're not going to do that because our mentor, our teacher taught us not to do that. And I think the beautiful thing is that, he's coming back stronger than ever. And he is he's coming back, stronger than ever. And it's just such a beautiful thing because he's modeling the next steps for people. It's modeling the next steps for him, for people. And it's just such a great thing because everybody that thought they won, all those people that thought they won, they're sitting there and they're just gobsmacked because they're thinking, wait a minute, I thought we got rid of him and all of those backwards hicks that voted for him. What the heck is going on here? These are supposed to be stupid people who don't even have two brain cells to rub together, and yet somehow they're outsmarting us with all of their data scientists and all of their researchers and all of their attorneys and all of their, moms and dads that won't let up and that won't stop pursuing the truth. Hold on, this isn't the way it was supposed to be. So, it had to be this way. It had to be this way for you, for me, to learn how to be an American. Because I know that what happened over the last 77 years from that fateful day that our boys jumped out of those landing craft and scaled those walls and those rocks at Normandy, somehow over the course of that time, whole generations forgot what it is to be an American, what it is to be the defenders of democracy on the world stage, what it is to champion Western civilization, what it is to champion the ideals and the principles that our forefathers inked on those days when they made a declaration of independence from the tyranny that was governing us up until that time. We forgot all of that, and we put it in the hands. We put our fate and we put our future in the hands of people that were set to destroy us, who did not value life in the slightest. And so my prayer, and I believe that the prayer of all of the patriots and the believers, is that we don't have a repeat of this, that we play this out, that we restore what needs to be restored, that the things that need to be taken out are completely eradicated, and that we're not back in this place, that the generations behind us are not back in this place in 50, 60, 75 years, having these same conversations and scrapping and scraping and fighting for the integrity of our vote and for the rule of law and for the fabric of democracy to be preserved. That is the prayer, and that is why Real 45 is still fighting for you, and that's why I'm fighting. That is why we are all here, and that we're not giving up, and we're not going to stop, because it's all on the line. It's all at stake, and we're doing it for the memory of those young men who never even made it out of the boats, who never made it up the cliff, who got captured behind enemy lines, who never came home, who came home in a casket, the ones who between then and this time never made it home. This is the real deal. We owe it to them, and we owe it to the generations behind us that are coming next not to be having this conversation 75 years from now. That's why we do what we do. Okay, so lots of comments here. Okay. It'll be interesting. Somebody put something in the chat. Somebody put something in the chat about the former vice president, and you used his name. I'm looking at Paul and Rach about a documentary. I wonder if that's going to be censored. I wonder if his name is going to be censored. That'd be interesting to see, because we haven't really been using his name. Okay, so I think that was a mic drop. I think it was a mic drop. I think that's a good place to stop the show today. I'll be back tomorrow. I apologize for being late today. We just had some things that were going on, and it was just impossible to get on air at 5:30. So I'll be back tomorrow at 5:30 Eastern. And Barley George says hello. And I don't know. Can you edit it, Paul? Is there a way to edit your comment? I think you can edit. I can't always get to comments after the fact. I think you can just edit it. Maybe just, break up the words so it doesn't look like all one word. I mean, who knows? These people are deranged. Yeah. The whole show was a mic drop. Thank you. I appreciate that. These are just the things that have been on my heart. It's just, we're living in such a huge time. It's amazing. Oh, somebody said something about Wanda Alger. I think that was Kathy, Miss Kathy, that she just gave a word. All right, if you're still on listening, Kathy, can you send it to me? Because I know that there was something that Wanda Alger put out recently, but I don't know if that's the one that I saw. Okay. I want to read this comment. The scary part for me is the left is trying so hard to turn us against each other. That makes people edgy, and violence comes from that mindset. Now, here's the thing I want to say. I don't think it's the left that's trying to turn us against each other. I think that it's actually the fact that we think it's the left means that the propaganda is working. I actually believe that it is. I actually believe that it's the bigger powers that be that are trying to create enemies against even right and left, because the truth is a lot of us actually want the same things. They want the people that want you to think that your neighbor is your enemy. Those are the people that are actually your enemy. And when Real 45 says that, he talks about the hidden enemy, that's a lot of what he's talking about. The people that are running the propaganda machines, okay? And that are manipulating and gaslighting you into thinking that your neighbor is your enemy, or that because of the color of the skin you were born with, you're automatically racist. Those are the people that are trying to create that division. Those are your enemy. I don't think it's just the left. I know that we use them as a scapegoat, and they use us as a scapegoat. And that means that the people who are driving the narrative are winning. So that's just my observation. Hey, Valerie. Yeah, the higher ups are dictating the divisive narrative. Divided, we are weak. So part of what's happening, is that people are coming together, and it's great. People are together more than they're apart, I believe. And one of the things that is so important as you go through this is to get people. Okay, thank you, Catherine. I saw your comment. It's so important for people to get out of the bubble of all of the news and the hoopla and everything that's happening, because it really makes a difference to go off the grid. That's what I do sometimes. I go up to a place where there's no internet. And it's so nice because, you're out there and, people aren't glued to their phones. They're just enjoying nature. And that is really what they wanted us to stop. They wanted to stop Americans from doing the things that actually are so wonderful about our country, that they wanted to stop us from actually getting out and enjoying our country and being free and celebrating and having family gatherings. I mean, you know that, but when you're out there and you're experiencing it, you understand. So make sure that you get your head out of this uh, quagmire of negativity and doom and gloom and political insanity, and make sure that you get outside and take time just to breathe and to be completely away from all of this. It's so important to do that. Okay. So I'll be back tomorrow. Make sure that you go to marygracemedia.com if you want to support the show. There's a support link on there. And then there's also a way that you can support if you want to get superfoods. You can message me, info@marygracemedia.com. You can get a promo code to save over $100 off of a 30-day reset. If you want to know what that is, you will get some information when you send the email. And then you can decide if it's the best thing for you. A lot of people are really just having phenomenal results because it's a lifestyle transformation. It's really changed my life. And so that's info@marygracemedia.com. I'll be back tomorrow at 5:30 Eastern. And make sure you're following my Telegram, Mary Grace Media Official, so that you can get updates and things like that. If I end up going on late, then you'll know because I'll put it in my Telegram. So thanks again, everybody. Have a wonderful night, and I appreciate all the great comments and the good participation. Before you leave, hit a thumbs up. If you come back after the broadcast, please go ahead and leave a comment. And then also make sure that you share this in groups on Facebook, tag your friends, and then on YouTube, thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and then take the link itself and send it to people that you know. Send it in a text message, send it in an email, say, hey, listen to this really good podcast. And that helps us get the word out. If you think it's a good podcast, then you can just send it out. Everybody have a great day. Thanks to my moderators, and I will be back tomorrow.